Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Today, I'm going to go through why Indians are good at saving money. So, I'm going to cover what are the lessons, why they are good, of course, what are the lessons we can learn from there, and then also what's negative about the saving culture in India. So, there's always lessons to be learned from being negative. So, there we can pick lessons from they being good, and then we can pick lessons from them being not so good. So I grew up in India, in Bangalore. So I've been born, brought up in Bangalore. I understand India. I've been outside India for almost close to 20 years now. So I come from Indian culture, and a big part of me doing well, finance wise, is because of the cultural importance, and then also things I've picked up in the Western culture. So I'm going to share what those are. So, first of all, let's talk about culture. So, India was colonized by British for almost 89 years. Here, a number of economic crises and other factors have made people not trust the government or the financial system. So that's one of the main reasons why they're always thinking about saving for a long term than relying on a government or other facilities like we in UK or in US or other developed countries. We take it for granted, to be honest. So they don't rely on that. So they're always thinking about I need the money for a long term, and also it's a very cultural thing that people feel responsible for their family. They're always saving for their kids' education. Dowry is a big problem and is still a very important mental model where people are trying to save for their daughter's wedding and for any of the old age and health related things. So people know that when they grow old, they will need money for their health because there is no like a national health service what we find in UK. There's no health system, and lack of education. People don't generally buy insurance. They rely on cash, and they start early on to save a lot of cash. Other interesting concept I'd like to mention is the concept of Paisa Vasool. Paisa Vasool is basically it's not how much you paid for the product, but how much can I use it for a long time. So you find people reusing a certain object. It may be a tech or a fabric or a piece of fashion. They use it a longer time than most of the other developed countries. So there's reports on how people use more just in fashions or in technology and other things. There is multiple system a network where people are repairing and using things till it fits the purpose, or they buy only when they think that is absolutely needed. They people are also tend to be religious. A religion is a big part of Indian culture, so they are always thinking about saving the money for good of the humanity, not evil. That kind of helps people save and then do a little bit of charity. They are trying to do good with the money, so they have a good notion about saving money. I think that's a good important thing. And then also there's, especially if you're being a Hindu, being a simple leading a simple life and being frugal is something which people admire, and something subconsciously as an Indian you tend to do. Other important thing is it's a very family oriented place in India. So a lot of people pitch in because it's so expensive, and then also people tend to live in big families. I think about 77% of the people prefer to staying with their parents. It comes as a shock to a lot of Westerners, but staying with family after your marriage is a very, very common thing. So if I was in India, I would be staying with my parents. So it's not a question of can I or what, it's just the way it is. And we are fine with it. So there the decisions are made by pooling in money. So everybody tends to pull in a little bit more money to buy something big because the land is expensive, and then also you get better deals with the system. So negatives. Let's talk about negatives about all the saving culture. One is people pay higher interest on credit cards and other things when they go to hospital because they don't tend to pay for an insurance or a retirement or a pension. They are paying higher interest rates on credit card bills and other things is because they use cash and they don't use it effectively. So they always are risk aversive. So they don't want to take more risk. So they always play safe. So they put in fixed assets or a low return long term funds instead of earning more money. They tend to hold a lot of asset or cash in real estate and gold. Everybody's got real estate. So first thing people think about is real estate and gold. Gold is for their daughter's wedding or weddings, but people tend to buy gold, especially as a commodity, a lot in India and real estate. So they hold a lot of money and they don't have cash flow, in my opinion. You could be more comfortable if you can release a little bit of equity and then have a better saving or a pension or a insurance in India. So lack of trust with the bank is usually due to could be corruption, a lot of red tape, and the whole process is not easy. It's a very anything to do with papers is a complicated issue. People tend to avoid, and they rather have money to pay than to go through the bank. So they tend to save a lot of money up front and instead of paying a lot of EMI. So I feel these are the main key good and the negative things about people, why they are good at what they do, and they do really well, especially NRI. NRIs are non-residential Indians. When they move outside the India, they do really well is purely because they have the mentality of saving for long term, risk averse, and backed by the lot of options they get like health, credit, and loans in the Western culture. So they take more easy risk. So for them, it's still a low risk, but it's an easy risk. As an example, when I first bought a house in UK, this is what 12, 13 years ago, the interest rates was the last decade was really cheap. It was like 2.5%. And I know a lot of people struggle putting in the down payment for the first property. But for a person who's coming from India, when back then the interest rates was about 12%, and you had to put in about 40% of the down payment, putting in 10% for 3.5% was just so simple and easy for me that I couldn't imagine why people are struggling to put in a down payment for a house, especially here in UK. To buy the first property, I thought is the easiest thing. All you have to do is save 10% and 3.5%, and it's done, and it's cheaper than rent. So I think the mentality coming from seeing 12% and having 40% down payment is just super easy, and Indians do tend to do really well. So a lot of my friends, Australia, UK, America, Canada, all are into real estate. They're all into stocks and shares. And they do well is because they tend to save for long term and they will do strategic investment as and when it comes. It's no surprise if you find an Indian in a street, they will do well over a period of time because that's their culture. Okay, let's talk about the lessons we can learn. What can we learn from an Indian mentality for saving? Save for long term, not short term gains. And then the concept of Paisa Vasool. So don't buy something which you know you're going to replace in 2 or 3 months, or you want to buy something thinking that if this is something I want to use for 3 years or 4 years, am I buying something for a long term? It could be a car, it could be a phone, it could be a house, it could be any of those things. You want to get the Paisa Vasool. Paisa Vasool is basically, Paisa is money, Vasool is am I getting the most of it? So you want to have that mentality towards saving is you want to save yourself for long term, and then also anything you buy, you are trying to minimize just replacing it every few times. That gives you more option to save, and then you're managing the resources better. Working with your family and other things. Over here, I see a lot of people like brothers and siblings don't help each other. They think that it's his life, let him lead this way. My analogy, I don't agree to it, is like if me or my brothers are there. If the first person, let's say my brother, wants to buy a house, I will pitch in the money what I have right now so that he can buy a house. And then on a understanding that when I'm buying the house, he's going to give it to me. It's a very weird concept, but the whole lot of India works that way is because we trust people. We buy, we share, we lend money to our friends, families, relatives in their need, and then it works both ways. So you are investing into trusting the people. I think there's some lessons to be learned, but maybe if you can work with your siblings and other things, pooled money could help each other than one person struggling or one family struggling for a long time. I know it's a controversial and it's a debatable thing, but I feel it's a lesson which Western culture can embrace, which is a good thing. Things from is not holding too much in assets. Having some cash flow is a lesson you need to learn. Indians don't tend to have cash flow, they tend to have a lot of assets, especially in real estate and gold. Probably, I think it needs to be a mix of little bit of real estate, cash flow, some liquid cash, so that there's enough cash flow so that you lead a good life. It's not just having money, because in Western world there's a health system. You don't need to save so much in assets. I'm saying saving is important, but you don't have to save in fixed assets. And then also buying insurance, even though you're paying a little upfront for every month, saves paying for an emergency and other things in a longer term. So trying to have that mentality of having some sort of insurance, paying for your pension, long-term retirement is something we should be aiming for. So my name is Sunil Kalbandi. I am passionate about teaching people to help them save money, enjoy more with their money. And if you like this video, consider subscribing, liking the video, so that I can share this video with much bigger audience. Till next time, see you and bye. Thanks.